Ennemcien. Let us see a special type of circuit in AC theory. That is nothing but a parallel combination of capacitor and inductance coil. This circuit is known as tank circuit. This capacitor is fully charged with Q0 coulomb of charge. Upper end is positive, upper plate is positive, lower plate is negative. That means this plate has an excess number of electrons. This has a deficiency of electrons. As soon as the connection is given, the excess electrons begin to flow through this coil. That means current in the coil begins to rise from 0 to some value. Whenever current in a coil changes, increases, decreases, or change in magnetic direction, etc., a counter EMF will develop in the coil just to oppose the change. That is called self-induction. We have seen this earlier. So, a self-induced EMF or a counter EMF will develop in the coil. That counter EMF is given by d phi by dt, minus d phi by dt. Now, flux linkage associated with a coil is phi equals L into I when current is I, where L is the constant called self-inductance. So, according to Faraday's law, the self-induced EMF or counter EMF is minus d phi by dt. You replace phi by L into I. And since L is a constant, you can take it outside the differential. So L minus L into d by dt equals voltage across this capacitor Q by Z. The counter EMF must balance the cause that produced it. Now you know that I is rate of flow of charge, dq by dt. You put this here. Then you get L d by dt of dq by dt equals, this minus is taken to this side, minus q by c. Or d by dt of dq by dt equals minus 1 by Lc into q. This means q is differentiated twice. So we write, this is symbol is d square q by dt square equals minus 1 by Lc into q. This is a second order differential equation of the form d square x by dt square equals minus omega square x. You are familiar with this equation. This is the differential equation of simple harmonic motion. This equation is exactly similar to this. That means the charge is executing simple harmonic oscillations in the circuit. Solution of this equation is x equals a sin omega t. Just like that, where a is the amplitude. Just like that, solution of this equation can be written as q equals q0. X equals a sin omega t. Similar to that, we can write q equals q0 sin omega t. A is the maximum value of x called amplitude. Here q0 is the initial charge, the maximum charge present in the capacitor is called charge amplitude. Here in the place of omega square, we have here 1 by Lc. Compare these two equations. So omega square equals 1 by Lc, or omega is 1 by root Lc. But therefore frequency of oscillations, electrical oscillations, f equals omega by 2 pi. That is 1 by 2 pi root Lc. This means that when a charged capacitor is connected to an inductance coil, electronic oscillations take place in the circuit with a frequency F equals 1 by 2 pi root of Lc. This vibrating electron, oscillating electrons or charge produces a changing magnetic electric field. A changing electric field is accompanied by a changing magnetic field. So the field, electromagnetic field, is propagated into the space known as a wave known as electromagnetic wave. So this is the generator of a simple generator of electromagnetic waves. To make the circuit efficient, a free conductor will be connected here. Upper end of the conductor is free, lower end is connected to this point. This is called antenna. So the electromagnetic waves generated here will be picked up by this antenna and radiate into this space. That is radio waves. So this is the heart of an oscillatory circuit or an electronic circuit used to generate radio waves. The heart is this tank circuit. Now, what is the physical mechanism taking place here? You know that negative plate means there are excess electrons on this plate, and there is a deficiency of electrons by same amount as the excess here. When connection is completed, the excess electrons will flow through the coil and come to the upper plate to neutralize the positive charge. But we know that when a load is connected to a spring and the load is pulled downward, it will execute up and down vibrations. These vibrations actually is the conversion of the total input energy in two forms. At times, the total energy is converted into kinetic energy of the load. At other times, it is converted into potential energy of the spring. So, the total energy takes kinetic energy form of the load and potential energy form of the spring at a periodic time interval. This makes possible by mechanical inertia possessed by the load. Similar to that, here electronic oscillations take place. As suppose there are 2000 excess electrons on this plate. As soon as connection is completed, these 2000 electrons must flow through this coil and neutralize the upper plate, making the capacitor neutral. But that is not what is happening. Because of electrical inertia of the circuit, in the place of 2000 electrons, some more electrons, say 3000 electrons, will flow because of inertia, one behind the other, to the upper plate. So this plate becomes negative and this plus. So initially the flow of electrons was from this in this direction. So due to inertia, more electrons than is required will flow to the upper plate, changing it to the negative potential value. Then electron flow changes its direction. Electrons now begins now this has excess electrons, and the excess electrons begin to flow in this sense. Here also, now also, more electrons will flow than is required because of inertia. In spring-loaded system, the spring doesn't stop at its mean position because it possesses kinetic energy, and due to inertia it passes the mean position to another extreme position where the whole of its kinetic energy is lost and is given to the spring as potential energy. So the exchange of energy is there. Like that, because of inertia, these coming excess electrons will not be equal to the real number of excess electrons here. More electrons will come to this plate, changing this plate again negative and this plate positive. So flow changes its direction again. This process goes on repeating. But there is a stop there because the coil is wound by a metal wire. That metal wire will have a definite ohmic resistance, and whenever current is passed through a resistance, it will heat up. So the energy will be lost gradually by the heat formed in the coil, and finally the oscillations will stop. So what we get is a damped type of wave coming out of the circuit. If you want to get continuous oscillations or continuous wave, you must supply energy by an agent to compensate for the loss. That we will see in electronic circuits. We will use an amplifier along with this to compensate for the energy lost. So this is called a tank circuit, and this is the simplest form of source of radio waves or electromagnetic waves. Thank you. Please subscribe the channel and enjoy this subject.